BYEpocalypse. It's week 14. We've got 45 wideouts ranked and tiered. And it is quite sad. Before Sunday, let's break down these wide receiver rankings for week 14 of the 2024 NFL season. Welcome to UNM Fantasy Football, presented by ErvinandM.com, where I combine industry-leading data, Vegas sports books, and expert analysis to provide you with optimal weekly rankings with the utmost accuracy when setting your weekly lineups in your fantasy football league. Writing this on Wednesday night. For Thursday's video, expect more videos every week for the other unit groupings like running back, quarterback, and tight end. And click the playlist for all the updated rankings for week 14. To start off, the top 45 wide receivers this week, full PPR. There's no Ravens, no Broncos, Texans, Colts, Patriots, or Commanders. The S tier is once again only 80 yards. There's only 3, boys and girls. 80 yards or more. And A.J. Brown, 90 over under, 88 yards per game. They are 13-point favorites against Carolina's 25th worst pass defense. Pray for Carolina fans. Justin Jefferson, 85 over under, 86 yards per game. They are 5-point favorites against Atlanta's 22nd pass defense. And Jamar Chase, 78 over under, but 95 yards per game. Also 5-point favorites versus Dallas's improved 13th best pass defense. These guys are the only ones projected by sportsbooks to go anywhere near 80 yards or more. That is the highest amount this week. It is very depressing. They have the best matchups with the most productivity. They are your elite S-tier wideouts. A-tier begins with the other elite wide receivers. Vegas has these wideouts projected for 70 to 80 receiving yards each. We'll kick it off with Puka Nacua at 4. 76 over under, 78 yards per game. In spite of the Bills' 8th best pass defense, this is the second highest scoring game of the week, and 90%, boys and girls, of opposing wideouts were able to go over against Buffalo this season. Puka should be just fine. You can count on him. Mike Evans at 5. 70 over under, only 58 yards per game. Been a rough season for Big Mike. He faces the Raiders this week, who are about league average against the pass. In week 12, Sutton went for 97 against them. And last week, Hop went for 90 yards against them. I mean, I'm not saying Evans is going to go for 90 yards, but he should get his 70 yards projected this week. He's the GOAT. Don't disrespect Big Mike. It's OG. T. Higgins at 6. 71 over under, but 80 yards per game. They are 5-point favorites against Dallas. Higgins has been a wide receiver 1 practically every game that he's played. He's went over 86% of the time. While Dallas has improved to 13th against the pass, 90% of wideouts were still able to go over against the Cowboys. Lock him in. It's CeeDee Lamb on the other side of the ball at 7. 70 over under, 73 yards per game. I mean, once again, it's a huge total for these boys. 49.5 points. I mean, the fact that they're going to be playing from behind helps CD get home by way of desperation and garbage time. Bengals have had 0 defense, which is perhaps more important to realize, practically all year. Literally, 100% of wideouts were able to go over when facing Cincinnati. 12 out of 12, every single one. He'll be just fine. And George Pickens at 8. 72 over under, 71 yards per game. I mean, it's basically the same story for Pickens. 86% of games, Pickens hits his over, and literally 100% of wideouts facing the Browns this season, who are 20th at the pass, have been able to go over. Russell Wilson's playing his best ball. It's easy. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 9. 68 over under, 68 yards per game. I mean, in spite of this being the highest scoring game of the week, and with the matchup being against the 25th Packers secondary, it's rare this season to have Brown go for 80 plus. I mean, he's literally only done it twice this year. It's a soft matchup. They allow 80% to hit. He'll be good for 70 yards. Lad McConkey at 10. 70 over under, 68 yards per game. He's in a great position this week in terms of the below league average Chiefs pass defense. He has the best chance to upset Kansas. And good news, in spite of their defense, total defense, 90% of wideouts also hit their over facing the Chiefs secondary. Don't be scared of the low total for KC. And Jerry Jeudy. Good Lord. 69 over under. Vegas believes in him. And 73 yards per game, which is skewed quite a bit by his ridiculous revenge game last week. I mean, no shot he tops last week's performance. He probably never will for the rest of his career. But he is here to stay. As a wideout one, maybe. But at least this week, he gets the below average Steelers secondary, allowing 90% of the receivers to get it done. So trust in Stefanski, trust in Jameis. Judy's arrived. The B tier is for more starters, but with projections from 60 to 70 receiving yards. I mean, it is slim pickings this week. So many teams on bye. Sad. We're going to kick it off. Number 12, ErvinandM.com.
ErvinandM.com is my company my best friend and I started in 2020. We literally make everything ourselves by hand. We have earrings, rings, necklaces, bracelets, tie clips, apparel, and more. Over a dozen curated gemstones and 100 handcrafted products. If you need a gift or something special for yourself, use the promo code in the description, find something you love, and buy it today. Back to the video.
If you like spending money and looking good, spend it in my store. There's so many amazing things to buy. But if you don't, subscribe. It's free. And it's Drake London at 12. London's been up and down this year. This matchup should allow him to continue where he left off last week against the Chargers. 68 over under for London, 66 yards per game. They have a much better run defense while their secondary is bottom of the league. They're going to need London. They're going to be chasing it from behind. You can count on him. Cooper Kupp at 13, 65 over under, 70 yards per game. Kind of the same story as it was for Puka. Cooper isn't as spry as Nakua, but he's not far off. He's an immense positive regression candidate this week. Rams are at home, and the total is the third best of the week. He's taken a step back, but he's more than respectable at 13th this week. Malik Neighbors at 14, 68 over under, 74 yards per game. The total's horrible. It's 41, but the matchup is fantastic. Giants would be morons not to throw the ball against the Saints' 29th pass defense, as opposed to trying to pound the rock against them. He's maintained points over expected all season, even now. He'll be fine. We'll go back-to-back with the Seattle tandem. Metcalf and JSN at 15 and 16. Metcalf, 62 yards over under.
Today, Junior!
76 yards per game. JSN, 74 over under, 69 yards per game. I mean, DK has maintained 7 more yards per game than JSN, but he is closing that gap with every game. The Hawks still pass the ball at the second highest rate in the NFL, and the Cardinals are league average against the pass. It's a close game, with a fine total. Geno can support both of them as they try and upset Arizona. I think they will. Slot him in. Calvin Ridley, 17. 63 over under, only 57 yards per game. Ridley faces his old team. And oh boy, does he have the game script for his just desserts. Don't get me wrong. Watching this game is going to make your eyes bleed. The total is the worst of the week. It's set at 39. But Tennessee is favored. And the Jags are last in the league against the pass. The dream matchup for Calvin Ridley. Jacoby Myers at 18. 63 over under, 68 yards per game. I mean, he gets Tampa this week. Tampa cannot stop the pass. 63 yards is modest, but he should be good for it considering he's 90% of his games he goes over. And the Bucs have allowed 90% of wideouts to go over against him. So nothing more, nothing less. We're still talking about huge dogs and one of the worst scoring offenses in the league. He'll get your fantasy points. Tyreek Hill, 19. I know it's depressing to see Tyreek down here. And I mean, in spite of the Jets being the second best against the pass, smart teams just move their best weapon away from Sauce. And in doing that, have allowed 100% of wideouts to put in work and go over against them this season. Does Mike McDaniels think that Tyreek is up for that challenge? Probably not. With his wrist issues, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem that Vegas does either. 66 over under, 55 yards per game. That's why he's at 19. GL. Which brings us to the flat tier. We're in C. Vegas has this group for 50 to 60 yards. And once again, the next two tiers are the same yardage projections, but we've ranked them according to matchup and on-field production to separate the groups. It's super mid down here. It's going to break your heart. Juwan Jennings at 20. 55 over under, 68 yards per game. I mean, he could easily maintain his yardage as arguably the most explosive weapon that they have now. We should expect the run game to take a step back by all accounts. This should be a Kittle and Jennings show. Niners are favored by 4 at home. He could easily finish in the B tier, maybe even more. Jaden Reed at 21. It's a 49 over under, 58 yards per game. I mean, the same goes for Reed. The lowly Lions secondary should prove to be a juicy and much needed path for Love and Reed to stay in the highest scoring game of the week, remain competitive, or to win. He's in the perfect position this week to positively regress and maybe give us an A-tier performance. Jameson Williams, J-Mo at 22, 50 over under, 63 yards per game. I mean, you could say the same thing about J-Mo as well. Obviously, these guys are at the front because they have the highest upside. Ben Johnson is going to need every bell and whistle that he has, and you best believe there'll be some design stuff for him. Once again, this is a close game with an enormous total, highest of the week. It's going to be a shootout with the Packers' league average pass defense. He can get it done. Darnell Mooney, 23, 50 over under, 61 yards per game. I mean, ATL didn't have a great showing last week, and this week they're not expected to win either. They are 5-point dogs, but they are facing one of the softest secondaries in the league. And this will be their scheme to remain competitive. You could easily get 50 or 60 yards or even more. They'll be fine. Devonta Smith at 24. 55 over under, 57 yards per game. I mean, once again, I don't know why the Eagles don't love Devonta anymore. It makes me sad. His matchup is great against the Panthers, 24th pass D, but even the ridiculous 13-point spread isn't enough for Vegas to push his numbers to 60 yards. He's set for 55. I mean, it's concerning and seemingly what we just have to expect until we see otherwise. And from here, it only gets uglier. A lot of the assurances and upside of these guys do not carry on to the rest of C tier and to D tier. And it continues with MHJ at 25. 56 over under, 50 yards per game. I mean, 50 yards is not what you expected from all the comps and all the hype this year. I mean, for perspective, him and Nico Collins are practically the same body type and play the same position. Now, watch some film this year of them two and let that sink in. The way Nico moves versus the way MHJ moves. I mean, maybe next year we'll see him use that big body to win at the catch point, as well as get those much desired yards after contact. I mean, it's not great. Not great at all. We'll go back to back with the Bears boys. Keenan Allen at 26 and DJ Moore, 27. The 48 over-under for Keenan, but 61 yards per game. DJ Moore, 58 over-under, only 55 yards per game. I mean, Moore is regressing, while Allen, after we all lost hope, is showing us why they got him. Williams and the Bears have improved their first down conversion rates and red zone conversions over the past few weeks, largely with Keenan Allen. And somehow, he's the only one to benefit from that uptick. It's still close for me, but they both find themselves here against the fourth best Niners secondary. Which brings us to more 50s. This tier has been less productive in spite of similar lines, where they have more troubles in offense or a player or just downright have a terrible matchup. It's the last viable anything. We'll kick it off with Brian Thomas Jr. 66 over-under, 64 yards per game. I mean, he's been great. He really has. But all things considered, he's no longer in that same position to succeed. I mean, if you can really view his situation like that. Mostly due, not to the quarterback change, but the Titans' number one in the league secondary. I mean, this is the worst total of the week. They are dogs. I mean, he's really talented, but don't get cute this week. You really don't want to start any of these guys if you can help it. He's the best option out of the lot, though. You have to. We'll go back to back with the Jets boys, Wilson and Adams at 29 and 30. Jets fans, earmuffs. Rodgers is going to get released in the offseason, and Adams is going to go with him. We'll be right back to G. Wilson and Brees the Beast with a dog water quarterback. Miami is 9th against the pass this season. They are 6-point dogs, and they've barely managed 60 yards per game. I mean, it's as bad as it feels. They're 60 over-under projections. They're 60 yards per game. It's just not going to change. Khalil Shakir, 31, 55 over-under, 57 yards per game. I mean, his numbers are nothing to write home about. The Bills badly need an elite wideout to cement themselves as one of the best offenses in the league. He should be good for his 50 against the league average Rams in a high-scoring game. But it really is too bad that they don't utilize him more, or he didn't pan out to be what they thought he would. Jordan Addison at 32, 48 over-under, 57 yards per game. I mean, he's been very good versus expected. But like Shakir, he's just not utilized enough to make a reliable impact. He's just over 50% hitting his overs. But for what it's worth, they are favored in this one against Atlanta's 22nd pass D. So at 33, D-Hop, 47 over-under, 42 yards per game. I mean, you could say the same thing for Hopkins. He hits the mark 50% of the time. Chargers don't make it any easier as they boast the 10th best secondary. I mean, this is a tough defense with a pretty low total implied. 3.5 receptions just doesn't cut it. Jaden Waddle at 34. 45 over-under, 50 yards per game. I mean, poor Waddle. He could be in line to be a weapon moved around to take advantage of the otherwise stellar back seven of the Jets. But in all honesty, Mike McDaniels has showed that this season it's Achane. That's who he uses, not Waddle. I mean, it's been better, but once again, less than 4 receptions. It's not doing it. From here, though, it's 40 yards or less. It's RIP. It's the rest. Nick Westbrook-Akine, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Adam Thielen, Christian Watson, Deebo Samuel, Amari Cooper, Xavier Legette, Roma Dunze. You know what I'm saying? Visit my store and buy something. I mean, it doesn't matter. Anyone left, they go there. I'll put your top wideouts full screen on screen now. Thanks for staying to the end. It's quarterback and tight ends tomorrow, and if you missed running backs, click the playlist. I sincerely hope this helps everyone watching. It's been an awesome season. Subscribe, turn on the post notifications so you see all the videos each week before submitting your lineups. It's free, so it's a good value. But if you like looking good and spending money, spend it in my store and watch some more videos.